Have you ever fallen into a personal development slump? What I mean by that is you're doing all the things you know to do to grow and to develop. Maybe you're journaling every day. Maybe you're working on all your habits. Maybe you're reading personal development books. And then one day you're just not, and it could be for various reasons. It could seemingly be for no reason at all. You're just going along, you're doing well, and all of a sudden you're not doing so well in your personal development. Well, in my about 3 years of personal development journey, I've experienced a number of these personal development slumps. And to be honest, I'm kind of going through one right now. So let's talk about it. So, what is a personal development slump? Basically, what it means is you're not performing at peak capacity. You're not getting the best you know you can do out of your personal development. So, what are some common characteristics, or how do you know if you're in a personal development slump? Well, some characteristics are a loss, or at least a lessening of motivation. Maybe your motivation isn't completely gone, but takes a little bit longer for you to talk yourself into doing the personal development things you know you should be doing. Sometimes it's characterized by low energy or fatigue. Possibly there's inconsistency of habits. Another characteristics is procrastination. That goes back to the lessening of motivation. There's things you should be doing, but it's just a whole lot easier to find excuses to put it off. I'll do it tomorrow. Another common characteristic of being in a personal development slump is this feeling of being stuck or being unproductive. You might still be doing the work, or at least some work, but it feels like busy work. It doesn't feel like you're actually getting anywhere. It doesn't feel like the thing you just finished that you had to talk yourself into doesn't really feel like it was productive or worth it. And then a last characteristic of a personal development slump is really just losing the joy of life. When you are working on yourself, when you are doing the work to become the best possible version of yourself, there's work involved, there's effort involved, but there is a joy in knowing that you're becoming the best possible version of yourself. And sometimes an indication that you're in a slump is it's just not as fun as anymore. You've lost that joy, or that vitality of life. That could mean that you're in a personal development slump. Okay, so what are some common causes of personal development slumps? Well, number one, it could be a burnout or overload. Another common cause of personal development slump is the loss of clear goals. One of the things you constantly hear in personal development is to keep your why in front of you, to keep the goal, to keep the what are you trying to accomplish? How are you going to accomplish, and why are you wanting to accomplish it? Another common cause of personal development slumps is stress or big life changes. When you have big transitions, maybe you get a new job, or maybe you get new responsibilities in a job, that can cause some forms of stress in your life. Now, that doesn't mean you're anxious about it. It doesn't mean you're overwhelmed by it, but it might just mean that, when you're doing your normal patterns, your day to day, what you normally do in and out, certain things just become automatic. Certain things doesn't take so much of your thought life or your mental energy. But when there's a big life change and everything you're doing is now new, it takes more mental energy to think through, what do I have to do today? On the other hand, sometimes you get into a personal development slump because life is too monotonous, it's too boring. There is no variation. It's just the same thing day in, day out. So there has to be a balance of new. There has to be a balance of excitement, and yet at the same time, when you have certain things in life that you don't have to think so much about, that really the processes, what works, how to do it efficiency, that takes the load off. And so you finding that balance can help you stay out of a personal development slump. Another common cause of this slump, or this feeling of a decline in your motivation, your performance, your effectiveness, can be physiological. It can just be not taking care of yourself. It is a neglecting of health basics. The next common cause of a mental slump is unrealistic expectation. It's thinking you can take on a certain level of work that you actually can't do this. You have to grow into being a high capacity individual. But if you have unrealistic expectations, you try to take on too many things at once, things fail, you miss it, and then motivation drops, and then you're not being effective in any of the areas that you want to change, and that causes the slump. Another common cause of this personal development slump is the external circumstances of life that pull you away, that need more of your focus. If you're going through a trial of life, if you're going through a family tragedy, if there is extreme stress in a situation or extreme sadness, you're trying to deal with a tragic thing in your life, that takes focus, that takes mental energy, that takes emotional energy, and that there, if you experience that, it might be that you just need to set aside and understand, I need to focus on this right now. And by focusing on this, you're still doing personal development. And then a final cause of this personal development slump is success complacency. It might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes when you've met your goal, sometimes when you've had success in an area, it can cause some complacency that will stop you from pushing forward to the next thing. Maybe you've been so focused on one goal for so long, you didn't even think about what is the goal after that. And then lastly, let's talk about, how do you come out of a personal development slump? What am I doing right now to come out of my personal development slump? Well, number one, just understand that a slump by definition is temporary. Uh, these things happen, but they don't have to stay in your life. You don't have to worry and get all concerned that there's something wrong with your life. This is a temporary situation that you can understand. I'm in a slump. You can face it and you can say, but I'm going to come out of it. Now, it is important, and this is the second thing you need to do, is it's important to make sure that you don't let yourself either fall back into bad patterns of behavior or create new patterns of behavior that will keep you stuck in your slump longer. You recognize it's temporary, but you also recognize, I can't let any new patterns of behavior or falling back into old patterns of behavior cause me to be in this slump any longer than I need to be. The next thing you need to do to come out of a slump is to not beat yourself up over it. You need to recognize, you need to understand that a slump is normal. As you're working, as you're trying to become the best possible version of yourself, it's not always going to be highs. You're not always going to be functioning at peak capacity. You're not always going to be the best version of yourself in that situation, and that's okay. One of the things that I've been struggling with in my personal development slump is this beating yourself up over it. There's two big things that I have had to be very careful of not to beat myself up over. Number one, in my personal development journey, one of the things I've been doing is I have been endeavoring to learn something new about personal development every single day. And, in a previous video, I talked about, I've been using an app called Strides where I could check off reading a personal development book every single day. For over 700 and some days now, I have this streak of a check, check, check. I've been reading personal development books every single day. And in the past few weeks, I broke that. I got busy, I got distracted, and there was a 3 or 4 day period in there. I just didn't think about reading it. That's hard on my flesh. That makes me mad at myself, but it's not going to do me any good to sit and beat myself up over it. The second thing that I've had to be very careful to not beat myself up over is the fact that during this personal development slump, I haven't been taking care of my eating as well as I should. I've been so busy, so distracted that I haven't been eating as good, and that's thrown off my goal of losing the 35 pounds by the end of the year. Not only have I not lost any weight, but I'm pretty sure I've gained some back. And well, that means I might not make my goal at the end of the year of losing 35 pounds this year. Well, that's embarrassing. I mean, I've gone on my channel and told everybody my goal is to lose 35 pounds, and maybe I don't make that goal now. Well, if I'm not careful, I could easily beat myself up over it. But what is that going to do? How is that going to help me in any way, shape, or form? It's not. And so I have to just understand, this is the realities of life. If you're going to be a success in life, if you're going to be the best possible version of yourself, you're going to have to be able to take setbacks without beating yourself up. The third thing that I think is very important when trying to come out of a personal development slump is to truly be honest with yourself. I really feel you never get anywhere trying to make excuses. You never get anywhere being dishonest with yourself. And so what I mean by that is, if you are truly in over your head, then you're in over your head. Be honest about it. If you really are overloaded with work, if you really cannot physically do the amount of work that has been assigned to you to do, well, then you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to be honest with your boss. Sometimes being honest with yourself just means, I need help. So just be honest with yourself. And another area that you need to be honest with, this is the fourth thing you need to do in coming out of a personal development slump, is you really should identify the root issue of your slump. We talked about all the different causes that could possibly bring about a personal development slump. Well, if you're going to come out of it, you need to understand what was your cause. Why did you come into this slump in the first place? Now, for myself, this is something I've been thinking about. For me, over the past 2 or 3 months, I've had really a change in responsibilities at work. I've had an increase of responsibility at work. And that's not a bad thing. I truly believe that when you're given more responsibilities, that is the start of promotion. That's the start of increase. That's meaning your bosses or your leadership is saying we can entrust him with more. So having more responsibility is not a bad thing, but my responsibilities have changed and increased over the past couple of months. And then more recently, I was put in charge of a very big project in our organization. And it's not that I'm incapable of doing this project. I've done big projects before. I've been successful in projects before. I have the capability, I have the knowledge and everything I need to do very well in this project. However, I have not been doing project management on a regular basis, day after day, for a while now. I understand project management. I can do project management. But if you're doing something every single day, there's certain things that and it's almost like it's automatic. Well, I haven't been doing it every day. So as I'm approaching this project, it's taking more of a mental capacity and mental load. Even something simple as what all needs to be in my project charter is taking more mental capacity for me and more mental energy for me to do. Now, what I should have done and what I'm going to start doing, because I'm recognizing the root issue of this slump, is I need to emphasize more rest. Now, of course, that means sleep, but even just resting when I can. Humans need rest so much that even the Old Testament, God commanded his Jewish people to take a Sabbath rest. Now, I don't believe as a Christian I'm under the law, but I do recognize that humans need rest. And I wasn't emphasizing rest. And even before I had all of the new responsibilities in the big project, I probably wasn't emphasizing rest the way I should have. But when all of these changes happened, I should have recognized I need to emphasize rest. The next thing I need to do is I recognized I need to focus better on how I'm fueling my body. Again, I haven't been eating the way that I should. And then lastly, for me, one of the things I really have should have done is I should have prioritized my time with the Lord, my quiet time, my time of prayer. The Bible says that they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall walk and not be weary. They should run and not faint. One of the things that I recognized is one of my big quiet times with the Lord where I can just talk to him, where I can pray, is in my daily commute. I have about a 35-minute commute. And often for a long time now, that's when I would talk to the Lord. That's when I would be quiet before him. That's when I'd wait on him. But when I recognized, hey, I'm in this slump and what's the cause of it? One of the things that I recognized is I've really exchanged that commute time. Instead of using that time to pray, uh, without meaning to, I've been using that time to think of all the things that I need to do that day. I've been making lists in my head. I've been making sure, okay, I got to do this when I get to the office. I need to do this right away. I need to send these emails, and I instead of prioritizing even more time with the Lord, I actually substituted it because I just got busy. I just got distracted. And then the last thing you can do to come out of a personal development slump is you can just recommit to the growth journey. At some point, you just have to make the decision. Personal development is still important to me. These are all the reasons why I did personal development in the first place. You get more clarity on your why, and then you say, all right, I'm moving forward. I don't know if that helped you, but it certainly helped me. I'm in a personal development slump right now. I wasn't doing all the things I knew to do. I wasn't being effective in my personal development. But with all of these things, I know that I can come out of it. I know it's just temporary. I'm still on my journey of personal development, my quest to live the more intentional life, and you can be too. If you want to learn more about the living the more intentional life, you can check out this playlist right here. But until I see you again, go out and live that more intentional life.